Welcome everyone to Pristine Peaks, World 2 in our adventure. Second stop along the way. I really like this area, actually.
When we first start off, it's all covered in kind of dark clouds and a lot of snow and stuff, so it's kind of hard to appreciate a lot of this, neat-looking scenery you got here once you kind of free up the world from the darkness and stuff. But even then, it was still pretty, well, pardon the pun, but cool. Fairly well designed. Maybe there could have been some more unique landscapes this area. Like you have it's a fairly simple map. Like the map, there's it has just sort of like one direction you can only really go with this map.
I will say I don't like that right there. That middle area right there.
Yeah.
This area is all climbing and multiple paths that cross back and forth, plus some tunnels you got to go through to go to the next area.
Yeah.
I get the idea, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. So you have like this nice little kind of landing area here.
Like the landing area a lot.
And this little area over here in front of the in front of the Winter Palace here is nice. With some unique characters and whatnot here, like the Mad Professor and such. But
I like the idea of climbing to the top of the mountain, then entering it, and like going back down it inside it. But we didn't really do that.
I think there could maybe be some more unique attributes or events, maybe.
Yes.
Throughout the climb.
Yeah, I think
because it was just going through essentially like little sub areas.
Yeah,
well, I mean they're caves,
but
it was
a little sub area back and forth.
But they weren't
none
of them were really all that unique. Like there's some puzzles and stuff inside, but they're all like block puzzles and whatnot. And it wasn't that unique. But you think like other Mario games, like other RPG Mario games, they have like a minecart ride.
Yeah.
Or you're just tunneling through the mountainside instead, or something kind of a little more unique to like climbing mountains or something inside mountains. I don't know.
I mean, it's easy for us to list things off. I do think the game could a little bit more. Like you said, there's like maybe a sub quest or maybe part of the main quest is you have to talk to a mole who has a drill who digs you through the mountain. You know, like you can't get by the mountain's an impasse, or kind of standard. The mountain at the top is too snowy right now. You can't get through.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out a way to get through. I don't know, something like that.
They did that with the ice blocks, but yeah, I think something a little more involved with this world aside from just all being frozen over would have made this a little cooler.
Yeah. I like how it looks. I would say,
and also the music in this area is quite nice too.
I would say I think I like this more than Beacon Beach. I think this is not my favorite. We're still not in my favorite world, but
yeah.
But yeah, I think there's more they could have done. I think Beacon Beach is because it's World 1, it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
But overall, I like some of the little things that here on the side stuff.
And
but
I think I like a cute callback to the first game, Kingdom Battles, like was it a hot cold world or whatever it was?
Yeah.
I forgot. Dry ice desert. I forget the name of it now. Sherbet desert. That's it. It's because like a mix of ice and desert there. But anyways,
this game does not have a desert world, does it? Actually.
Yes-ish. The Barrendale Mesa.
Oh yeah, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Well,
I guess it does. It's just not the standard one. So that's kind of a neat thing and a not neat thing. Actually, in some ways.
Let's talk about that when we get there. But yeah, with this area, I guess in terms of like just snow levels,
I'd say I like how it looks. I didn't really like running through this map.
Yeah,
and that's kind of a problem.
I'd agree with that
because I would run right now back through Beacon Beach. I don't think I'd run through this map.
Yeah.
Right now, even like looking at this mountain, you go, oh, I don't really want to climb that. And some mountains in certain games you do want to climb, but this is not really one of them.
Right.
So I would say overall, there could have been some changes to make this a little bit more fun to explore.
Yeah.
This back area I like. I like the idea of a kind of chateau in the mountains type vibe, really nice ski resort type of thing going on. I thought that was really cool. This open area back here is really neat after the mountain.
Wish maybe there actually would have been more to do in the Winter Palace. I mean, there's a couple things. I guess enough, which was fine.
No,
but
I would agree. Actually, the Winter
there could
Palace
have been maybe a little more to it.
That should have been a sub area. Think like a mansion type thing where you explore rooms or go through it.
It kind of had that though, right? With the little weird puzzle you had to go.
No, it's got the maze on the side and that puzzle room.
Yeah. And that's about it.
But not enough. I think that it could have been bigger of an area.
Well, because it's like, there's like, 2 sections of this map, right? Climb up the mountain, so essentially the mountain here, and then the Winter Palace over there. So I guess the Winter Palace maybe should have had a little more focus to it. Because like it was pretty much mostly mountain and then a little bit Winter Palace.
I think it's some things though, like if you made this overworld map a little bit smaller, or let's say you start at the bottom of the mountain and you look towards the top and you see the chateau.
That's where it is, at the very top.
You see the chateau at the top of the mountain. And your first half of the mission is climb the mountain with some other side missions and things along the way up to the peak. And then you peak, you have this nice overview of the whole world.
Yeah.
And then you get to either slide down the mountain to the chateau, like keep it down below, or the chateau is on top of the mountain. And then the second half of the world is mansion-y type things.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked that more than going up the mountain. Then going back down is really quick and easy, and there's nothing here. And I don't know, maybe something else would have been a little bit nicer. But overall, I like how this world looks. Some of the side quests were not amazing in this one, but overall, it was okay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
We'll go ahead and now take a look at the next thing we want to talk about. Last time we talked about heroes, as you all know. That took a while.
Yeah.
We're going to skip over team. You could talk and argue about different team comps. We're not really going to do that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we've already kind of discussed that a little bit when we talked about the heroes. I mean, I guess we could briefly touch on that.
Sure, I suppose we could do that, actually.
Okay,
we could briefly talk on team comps. Really, like we talked about before,
the best would be at least like two. I think the best we had was having 2 damage dealers and 1 support on a team. I think that made a really good team comps.
So what I'll
mix
say,
it up with the different characters based off of like those roles.
A lot of this comes back to that sparks are good. Sparks are very, very good. So you want to be able to use sparks fairly often. Not necessarily all the time, but like almost every time you can, they're worth doing because they give you some kind of bonus.
Yeah.
So because of that, characters are going to want to use either technique, weapon, or spark, but you can't do all 3 generally. You need to choose. So you want some kind of mix of things that allows you to do the most damage in a turn or 2. Because most battles in our situation ended in 2 turns, I would say.
Yeah, just a couple turns.
In a turn or 2, maybe 3 if it's a longer one. Only the reach areas that were like a mile long would take
survive.
More, or survive.
Where you had to wait like 8 turns.
That was the only ones that took longer time. So that being said, certain characters, maybe you don't want them to fire. You want them to use sparks.
Or their technique.
Their technique. So that's where we found at least 1 support character came in really handy. Because if everyone is a damage dealer, that sounds great in paper. But like for Luigi, for example, we want to technique, shoot, and let's say use a spark. Well, you can't do all 3. Well, if you spark and use your technique, you're losing all the damage from your weapon.
Yeah.
If you weapon and steely stare, that's great, but you didn't get to use a
spark to help boost damage or whatever.
Boost your damage. So certain like round 2, maybe he gets to do like a technique and a shoot and a spark because his technique's on cooldown. But first turn, you didn't get to do that. So if he's doing all this damage, it's nice to have someone else support him and boost his damage. Which is where someone like Luby comes in handy, who can use sparks because he doesn't need to fire his weapon.
As well as his technique is a technique that is supportive. It's designed to not only weaken enemies so they do less damage, but when you got max upgraded, you also do more damage to them.
That's where like a Rabid Lena could come in handy too. You could annoy to freeze everyone and boost damage.
And then you're not so worried about the fact that Luby's weapon doesn't do so much damage.
Yes.
Because your other heroes, like Luigi and Mario in this case, says this right here, they're just going to deal a whole bunch of damage thanks to Luby having weakened the enemies.
We like this team comp a lot.
And they all
the reason I will say we do not switch Luby for Rabid Lena is there's 2 reasons. Rabid Lena's ability is kind of better than Luigi's. It freezes and applies that same 30% extra damage when you do the first shot.
True.
But here's the thing. If you freeze them, they do not move, and Luigi's Steely Stare and Mario's Hero Sight do not activate.
Yeah.
So she actually is not a good combo with those 2.
Yeah, at least with characters that use reaction sights all the time.
Yes,
or once
and
a lot.
Her range of her ability is significantly less than Luby's weakened range is.
True.
Which makes Luby really good if you're planning to just shoot everyone in the first turn.
Yep.
So we actually found Luby to be a better support character than like Rabid Lena because
for a lot of our battles, because we want to just do damage
in 1 turn.
Right, we want to just dish out the damage more so than just stall out the battle.
A lot of this will also come to when we get to Sparks conversation, which I think now we'll wait for the next world. We'll talk about Sparks there. That will kind of wrap up this whole team comp because Team Comp relies heavily on spark usage and who can carry what sparks. There are certain sparks that are incredibly broken, and that matters. That's how you kind of, funny enough, base a lot of your team comp is who can carry what sparks.
Yeah.
For example, Murrow's incredibly good on his own, but he's broken with Glitter, who we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
Or not a second, in a little bit.
Yes.
So that's kind of how it goes. I would say a lot of that we liked Mario, Luigi, Luby. That's really great. I would say you could take out maybe some of that hero site, or like, so you could take Mario, Luigi, Luby. That is a high damage dealing comp. We did a double support comp for a little while, which was like Mario, Petch, and Luby. I found that comp very good, but it was lacking a tiny bit of damage that maybe could have been replaced by getting rid of Luby or Petch. Probably Petch, because Petch unfortunately just can do nothing. Luby really can't either. But once again, his technique is better if you do not need the heals.
Yeah. So right here, sorry, I'll get over to Luby.
Luby, the reason we use him a lot is his technique directly allows you to do more damage.
Yeah.
So in a way, he is a damage dealer in that sense.
Yeah.
Peach's technique is barrier, so she is a damage prevention.
Yes.
Petch is a damage healer, so she heals back damage dealt with her technique. Rabidlina is a freeze the enemy. That's the majority of her ability. She does allow you to do extra damage.
Yeah.
But the majority of her ability is a waste time or freeze enemies in place to better position. So Luby, in our case, if we're trying to do damage first turn, actually helps increase her damage by far the most out of everyone.
Yeah.
Because of the AoE.
So like right here would be is an amazing team comp just because, well, for damage, to deal a lot of damage, because
Mario can deal with all close-up enemies.
Yep, and deal a bunch of damage because his weapons do a lot. Luigi already has, like, his weapon does the most, so he can stay back and just deal a lot of damage, while Luby here weakens all the enemies, so they just take even more damage. So yeah, but this team comp right here, you're just gonna do massive damage to all the enemies, really.
One thing too is I liked Edge a lot. Edge could slot in here too. She does not deal the damage that necessarily like Mario initially deals, but because of all her slides and because of her weapon actually doing more as it hits through multiple enemies, and because of certain sparks where you can put yourself in great spots, she plays similar to Mario, where at least in our playthrough, she always had an extra action point because we did not use her technique. Same as Mario, we did not use his technique. So they were allowed to carry sparks and use them, and characters that could use a spark, use a weapon, and use movement tended to be our favorites.
Yeah.
Which is why Edge is highly rated, Mario's highly rated. Mario's still really good because he just does a lot of damage and he's very versatile. Luigi's very good because his damage is crazy high.
Yep.
This is a good one too with some more shorter range characters.
Yep. Again, so we have here the one support character with the barriers, but then she also does pretty good damage herself.
Does damage, yep.
And then Edge here is all those dashes and just all around good. And same with Mario, all around good with this technique and his weapon damage. So again, this is also a pretty good one too, for good damage as well as also good protection as an emergency sort of situation.
Yes. Or preemptively, we didn't do this too often, but with certain sparks or barriers, you can negate damage down to 0. And you could have characters go stand out in the open and not behind cover if you're willing to give them tons of resistances. Yeah. So Peach could do that. Other sparks can help do that as well. Then you could do things like counterblow with Mario. You could do things like Edge, just standing in the open, getting great shot angles. So there was some usefulness of that, but once again, that didn't really fit our playstyle of just trying to do as much damage in one turn as we could.
Yeah.
We talked about some bad comps, like anyone with not a lot of damage. So if you're going to have like Petch, who does not deal much damage, and like Luby, who doesn't deal much damage, you're going to have to pair them with someone who does. If you pair them again with someone who doesn't do too much.
Yeah. Like this team here kind of requires a little bit on some luck here on Bowser's part for the extra crit damage, but even then, it's not a whole lot of damage that other heroes could do, and then these two just don't do a lot of damage. So even with like Luby's ability to, reduce enemies' weapon, their damage, as well as they can take more damage, even with some sparks helping buff all this damage up, still not going to be a whole lot to take out a bunch of enemies and such like that.
Now, if you do like a Peach and Petch thing with barriers and heals, you really probably can't lose the battle. Along with some defensive sparks per se. There's just...
Yeah, this would just be pretty much a very dragged out battle, but
that's the
you'd
problem.
win it.
It's dragged out, but you win it.
Right. You just probably can't die, right? With the heals and the barriers.
And one thing
plus, everybody we weakened or whatever.
One thing we're not mentioning here either is that there are different battle objectives.
Yeah.
So some is defeat all, some is survive, some is reach area. This is actually a very good survive comp.
Right.
If you have to wait 8 turns, this team's not dying.
No, they're not really. No.
maybe you don't even need Luby, and instead you do another tanky, even Bowser or Mario. Probably Mario because he at least can help deal with portals. Bowser really can't as well.
Him or Edge for follow the dashes, or Rabbids if you just wanted to stall.
Stall.
I mean, if you're doing a survive, there you go.
This team comp does not kill very well. They don't have a lot of damage, but between heals from Petch every single time and Peach putting out barriers on everyone,
plus
and Rabbids freezing. You actually hardly have to play the game.
No, and then
you can let the enemies just kind of hit you, and then you heal it all back up and freeze them, and then wait 2 turns.
And then if you add items into the mix, it just makes it even more broken. But we'll get to that a little later on. My gosh, there's just a lot to talk about with this game. But there's a lot, a lot of mechanics in this RPG, which is good.
Yes.
And again, with all these different team comps, as they're kind of going through this sort of roulette of heroes to slot them in and out, there's not really ever a bad sort of combination, I would say.
No. This is an aside here, but I really wish the game would let you save team comps and save sparks.
Especially with the sparks.
They needed to do something where you could preset save.
You might have noticed if you watch the entire series, but towards the end, we just kind of kept sparks on certain heroes. You never try to remove them. Because
it gets really annoying to switch
you could,
all the time.
and you always move the best ones around to different heroes as you played as them for the battles, but I don't know, it can be a little challenge, but at the same time, it's sometimes some sparks are just the best for that hero.
There are certain sparks, though, too, that are so good that they have an argument to be put in every single team comp, no matter who's on.
Yeah, you can find a place for them,
those we'll talk about in the next
little bit. Yeah.
Actually, though, I think we're pretty much done with our team comp discussion.
Yeah.
As we said, you can run almost anything. Is the nice thing about this game. I will say everything. The characters in the previous game, some were really, really good, and some were kind of bad. This game has equaled the playing field. There's no one that's so bad that you're like, oh, I just can't even use them in the slightest.
Mm-hmm.
There are characters that are very, very good, and maybe even a tiny bit broken, but no one is so useless that you're like, I can't even bring them.
Yeah.
Bowser's the only one that borders on that edge, I would say. Honestly, sorry, buddy. But that's about how I feel about his playstyle.
At first, I thought you were about to also call it Edge there. I was like, what? Edge is pretty good.
No, Edge is very good.
Yeah.
And Luby would border on that if you had to rely only on his weapon. He'd be actually useless. But because it's a team game, he gets a pass.
And again, the Ricochet is fine and all if it worked well in a lot of battles. It's just the fact that most enemies you find them behind full cover. And
Here's what I'll say.
The Scrub just hits the cover. So, so unfortunately, you can't rely on his weapon ever. So that's why we just stuck him as purely support.
Here's what I'd say.
In all team
Luby would see an enemy, get to a spot where he could shoot him, throw his weapon, and it would bounce off the enemy straight into the cover behind the enemy every single time.
So, again, that's why he's just been relegated to team support.
He would do 560 damage to that enemy, and every other character in our game could do way more than that. So
again, I guess to end off the hero comp or the hero team setups, who would you say are the damage? I guess we split up the teams as damage dealers and supports, right? So
that's kind of how in my mind.
So who would you say are the attackers and who are the supports?
Attackers are going to be looking at right here: Luigi, Mario, Edge, Mario are my attackers.
And then support would be Luby,
Petch, Peach, Rabbids, Bowser. I would say Rabbids, though, does a lot of damage. And in fact, I was surprised in the final battle the other time we played that.
Yeah.
She actually did more than Peach.
Yeah.
Now, Peach I would put as support as well.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbids does more than I give her credit for. So you could argue not just
support, but kind of in between.
I think if you
she's good support and good attacking.
I think if you attacked all the time with her, she actually could be quite good.
Yeah.
So she is a good character that borders on that edge right there.
I'd say both of these kind of are between attacking and support. Peach maybe more on support, and Rabbids perhaps more on attack.
Yeah.
Maybe
Peach. The thing is, Peach doesn't do crazy damage. I mean, it's over 1,000, which is good. But because it's a shotgun, It's not. Yeah. Don't think of it as just the one enemy. You're likely hitting 2 to 3.
Yep.
And that's like now that's closer to like 25 or 2,700 damage.
Yeah.
Well, that's now pretty good. Now you're not really maybe killing any enemy by yourself, but you're doing more than like poor Luby could, or definitely poor Petch could.
Yeah. Right, with her only attacking one enemy, and Luby could attack multiple, but their weapon damage is not as much as Peach's could be. Yeah.
So
or multiple enemies. Yeah.
That's what I'll say there. So, yeah, I'd say out of every character here, Rabbids is probably the only one that I would need to maybe even play more with, or maybe figure out if I liked her a little bit more.
Liked her more as an attacker, liked her more as support.
We played her a lot as support.
Yeah, throughout our playthrough it was more support, but honestly, she could be quite a good attacker because her weapon damage was quite good, and destructible cover with her and with the weapon, and I don't know, maybe just.
But it's just I found her either not fully support and not fully attacker through our playthrough.
Yeah,
and when you kind of split other characters up as fully attacker, fully support.
They work well in a team.
We found it worked well. If you Luby fully as support, he does nothing but support, and you give him 2 attackers, that team wipes through most any problem that comes across.
Yeah.
So that's where I found, because the thing is, if you try to do too much, you only have 2 action points. So you can't do everything every turn.
Yeah.
You got to pick and choose.
Yep.
That's about it for the team comp, and we will head up to the next world.
All right.